in this fogginess, I just want to make sure everything's running properly. So, who the heck were Eliza and Charles Pinckney? They had a son named Charles, they had a nephew named Charles. That's 3 different Charleses, in case you lost track. That's why we look for secondary verifiers. We don't know which Chuck we're talking to. So we always need that secondary clue to kind of verify which Charles it is. But the son and the nephew were signers of the Constitution for South Carolina. You can start your video too, which is the red circle. So it's a big deal for us on the South Carolina, Constitution piece, but I hate politics, especially today since it was all over the damn news. So we're going to move on and talk about Eliza. Her story is way cooler anyway. Eliza married Charles at a young age, according to today's standards. If you're going to ask her how old she was when she got married, you're not going to hear numbers like 12 and 14, like the colonial times that she came from.
Baby.
Interesting.
I don't know what that means, but I heard
it
baby.
actually has some relevance. I want another clue. It's a little too vague for me. Looking for the name of the baby. So, and we don't know if it's going to show up on David's device either. He hasn't told me anything that he's heard yet. I see him playing with the volume. Uh-oh, May's jumping in.
See, when I heard baby, now
She's
it's
tag teaming it. So, think of today's standards when you're asking her that question once we spread out. And the reason I bring this up is because her husband, Charles, was over double her age in the 1700s. That's a creepy age gap then. It's a creepy age gap now, just so you guys know. Anyway, she married Charles because her father was over in England, where she's from, and he thought he was dying. He's trying to bring all of his children home one last time. Eliza didn't believe he was dying, so she stayed put and got married. It's 1744. You don't get married in that year to get a green card. We're not even a country yet. She did marry him out of love. There was no foul play. However, she was right. Dad did not die right away. Instead, he starts sending her gifts from England to this space where we're standing. One of those gifts happened to be the plant seeds of indigo. You guys have been in town for more than a day or so. You've seen indigo, the word somewhere. It's a plant that makes blue dye that makes her blue jeans blue. So some of you are wearing it tonight because that's how we use it today. When she got the seeds, she didn't know what to do with them. She had to learn from her servants and slaves how to cultivate it. It's obviously not hot here all the time. So once she figured it out, she moved it to a crash crop plantation just south of here, and then got a hold of her dad and said the rice plantations were going downhill, that they were going to make a killing with the indigo. And now we have an international businesswoman during the colonial times, which is something absolutely unheard of. That's the boring business shit of Eliza Pinckney. Let's talk about the weird stuff, because that's why you guys are here. So, I crack jokes all night. Wow. I can't even get smiles out of you guys until I point out the joke. So, series of questions of things that we commonly get answers to here. I will be honest, every November, December, I always add one place and take one out, or do 2 of those. This was one of the places I was looking to retire because we were getting some very negative messages out of here. You guys feel like you're pretty quiet folks, so I feel like you're going to be respectful while we're in this location. But again, this is a prominent English woman. Don't piss her off. Like, that's the gist of this space. And I'm going to probably do 2 round robins just to kind of see what's going on with your devices, and then we'll probably hit the road. Like, I'll give you all the answers to these questions of whatever we didn't get in real time, and then we'll go on to the next location. Normally, this would be a space for like 20 to 25 minutes because it's so active, just so you know. But questions that you guys can ask. I'm going to actually assign them just so you guys aren't asking the same series of questions. I'm going to give you guys the Eliza's death questions. How old she was, what she died from, where she's buried, and what president was a pallbearer at her funeral. Yeah. Your questions. So obviously the age is going to be a big deal for you. So how old she was when she got married, or how old Charles was. You can also ask how long they were married. We get that number here a lot. These are very specific things. The other thing you can ask about is what happened to the mansion. It's not here. So what happened to it, and when did that happen? So we're obviously looking for a very, very specific date. And again, notice that none of these are yes-no questions, just so you guys kind of get the gist of that. These are very specific things that we get all the time. There's a whole bunch more, but I'm trying to keep things simple. In the event we don't get answers to that or EMF readings, we'll probably call it and move on. So I am going to keep Samantha behind for just a few minutes so I can show her how to use that a little bit further. And then I'm going to be bouncing around with all of you. So again, cameras, there's only one vehicle in here, so nice and easy to stay away from the one target. And don't be filming around that person's car. It's just weird. But we do have the whole space, which is wonderful. So again, start spreading out, start asking your questions if you just want to focus on them, if you want to ask them out loud, whatever you want to do. Just so you guys know, like, you're getting a lot of letters coming through. There's a knob right below the red dot. You just get, like, counterclockwise, we'll scale it back a little bit. So if you start getting those A, B, C, D, E, F, G's. All right, so go spread out. I'm going to keep Samantha with me.
Okay.
All right. All right, so your device, have you seen any numbers show up yet?
Yes, it came to 1.2.
Do you remember the questions?
Yeah.
Okay.
How old she was when she died. How she died. Where she's buried.
Who was the president at the funeral?
Reset it.
Yeah.
How old were you when you died?
Eliza, what happened to your house?
Who's your pallbearer?
Eliza, what happened to your house? Why is it not here anymore? You want to move to that corner?
How did you die?
It's weird that it's not picking up anything now.
We're not standing under a power line.
Oh. Is that what it was? Tiny dancer. Eliza, who was the president at your funeral? That was the pallbearer.
Alright, you two, what you got going on over here?
Nothing.
Heard anything?
Nope.
Nothing at all?
Nope.
No matter how silly you think it might be. You got the volume turned up?
Drop.
You heard drop? That even matches up to anything I have. Yeah, see, we're not dealing with witches and werewolves here. Not at all. It's the second word we had on there. She did have the word baby. Again, I'm waiting for a name to come along with that. Do you have any letters showing up that might be initials? So, kind of the example that I give with these spirit boxes, especially at this location, is like, hey, if you hear the song lyrics, drop it like it's hot. that could mean that there was a fire here. That's a first clue. Of course, I want something else to go along with it to verify it, but again, something silly like drop it like it's hot, you wouldn't think would be relevant, but it can be.
Mm-hmm.
And again, what you're doing is not easy. So listening to a spirit box is never an easy task. And with the cameras, I don't always follow up with them in real time because I send them to YouTube, just so you know, so I can watch them on a much bigger screen.
Mm-hmm.
And that way you guys can do the same thing. So I watch them on a large computer screen, so that way I can see everything and all the corners nice and clear. So again, it's just the slower the movements, the better the video. It's really the only rule of thumb with those. Even when on my own investigations, I just set them up in a room and let them run, and I watch them later. I'll set them up with laser grids and all kinds of things to see if there's any, real detection of motion. But again, it's not always like I'm going to sit around and watch that tiny GoPro all night while listening to a spirit box. That's why I always give the earbud ones to the people with the cameras. It's the same thing even with the thermal. All right, let me see if they got it.
Turn it off. Eliza, how old were you when you died? Eliza, what happened to your house? Why is it not here anymore?
How did you die?
How's it coming now?
Got a couple of hits.
But QAHT, yeah, I got nothing on that. Nothing heard on the spirit box?
Mm-mm.
You guys have a it's not recording. We'll have her report. She's already heard the number 14, which is irrelevant to the space because that's the number of years that Charles and Eliza were married. So, again, it's a common number that we get here.
Mm-hmm.
So, I
We
have...
did hear Tiny Dancer earlier.
The song.
We're putting... I get it.
Mhm.
I'll show my age and say I know the song.
Yes. Uh-huh.
But we're still going to mark it just because you finally, you got the gist of hearing something.
What does Elton John have to do with Eliza Pinkney?
Nothing, but the lyric is. What's funny is everybody tells me that they hear Harry Styles. I'm like, I don't give a shit that you heard Harry Styles. I want to know what he sang. Like, what was he singing?
What was the song?
So I have her checking for any kind of EMF detection. Like right now, she has had nothing. Like it's been pretty minimal. Nothing that's not natural. So in this space, we normally get anywhere between 18 to 22 as a spike, and that's an average. So I normally see that about 5 to 6 nights a week. And I'm out here 7, unless it's weather conditions or an instance like yours from yesterday. Yeah, normally quiet nights like this is normally when we get a lot of activity out of her. I'm surprised that nothing really happens.
Oh well, Eliza. I guess you're just tired tonight. That's crazy. used to be here.
Huh?
He said that her house used to be here. And now it's just a parking lot.
She did.
It's just sad for her. Doesn't even have a house to walk. You want me to stop recording?
Yeah, go ahead and give your.
Favorite. That's what I heard
Well,
earlier.
I wouldn't pay
We were
attention to the
talking
timer.
about
Right. Just because you're splicing videos.
Got it.
So I'll know based off the visual that I just took of when you said you got your birds. Plus I'll make note of it as we walk into our next space to watch the end of the making engine cycle. Okay. The next spot we're going to is an alley. So definitely want you guys listening in on your spirit boxes. We're not going to be recording any film until we get into the alley, but I want you to keep in mind that it is a popular, like, staple tour stop. So if we get other tours, they didn't get paid, they didn't pay to get filmed. So we're just going to point our cameras the other direction. Yeah, I'll look into it and kind of see if there's anything there. I'm doubtful of it. But,
Right.
I mean, I won't deep dive, but I'll definitely scratch the surface. Every ghost tour comes down here. I'm surprised there's nobody down here now, but again, it's like the whole city's ours tonight. But this is Philadelphia Alley.
That was weird.
What'd you get?
When
you
said
were
there
when
was,
you
like,
said that, there
tours,
was like just people laughing. Like
Just,
every
like,
ghost
pure
tour comes down here,
laughing.
they were just laughing.
that normally a lot of people are down here, and it was like, ha ha ha.
Oh, yeah, there's people coming by, so definitely
But like a
don't
creepy
film.
laugh, not like a
Not
a laugh. It was like a creepy one.
Yeah, it was like definitely a
It was,
creepy
super
laugh.
clear.
So Antonio, once these young ladies pass, we'll start filming. Make sure called Dueller's Alley. This is where some of the duels used to occur for the city of Charleston. We all tell the story of the same duel, but anybody else got a ringing in their ears?
A little bit.
Now it's gone. Okay. But you're going to get a little bit more detail from me just because you're ghost hunting. Again, this isn't a campfire marshmallow ghost story, the way they make it out to be. At least I don't look at it that way. But the story is the base of it is the same. A doctor moves down here from Rhode Island. You're going to be keeping an eye for the letters RI consecutively coming out of the Ouija board device. That's going to be relevant in one of two different ways based on any other clues. Do you
I
have
just got an R as soon as you said R.I.
Not gonna happen. That's what I just heard.
Come on, Ralph.
And it went to 0.
Of course it did.
Not gonna
Alright, so we'll
happen.
see if you get that I out of it. The weird thing is we were getting the initials RI on spirit boxes. So when that guy was invented, I'm like, I have to have it to see if we can get the initials when we're down Philadelphia Alley. But anyway, he comes down here from Rhode Island because he's supposed to get married to his fiancée, Amanda. Amanda just inherited a bunch of money from her dead parents. So she has an attorney helping her out with all of this cash flow. The attorney thinks that Dr. Ladd is just after Amanda's money. So he tells Amanda, get rid of the doctor. So Dr. Ladd moves to Charleston to prove that he's not after Amanda's money, and he's going to start his practice down here. Well, the coachman that brought him into town, what do you got?
J.
Damn it, he was close.
Like, had
I had a R.Y. I had R.Y. J.
R-Y-J, okay. Yeah, definitely not our R-I. So the coachman set him up to be robbed and killed. It wasn't a good start to his stay down here. So somebody was walking by with the name Ralph Isaacs. You can see where I stare at the letters R-I. But we need the secondary clue so we know which person it actually belongs to. But Ralph tells the doctor, dude, you don't want to stay here. I know this guy. He's going to try to kill you and try to take all your cash. I got some friends at 59 Church Street. You can stay with them and you'll be good to go. Now, there's a lot of things that go on with 59 Church Street, a lot of clues that show up around it. I'm not going to tell them to anybody, so if things start to pop up that you're like, yeah, I don't know what the hell that means, I'll explain it, because it does pop up. But anyway, the doctor took him up on the offer, they became friends. The longer the doctor stays down here, the more money he's making. He's proving his point, he's not after Amanda's money. So Amanda gets wind that he's making quite a bit of cash and she's coming down so they can get married, and Dr. Ladd became known as the Whistling Doctor. Every haunted city you're ever going to visit in the future will have a cliched whistling ghost. We actually have proof of this one. I'm going to get to it. Ralph and Dr. Ladd go see plays together. They can't sit next to each other because the doctor makes more money. That's just the way the hierarchy works in Charleston. So, more people coming down?
That's the doctor.
Might be. Yeah, be careful with your filming. Go ahead and point your camera down. What's funny is I've actually been kicked out of this alley, and I'll tell you about that once we end the story on the doctor, because I'm always mindful of the neighbors. So, anyway, they're arguing over this actress on the way home because they couldn't sit next to each other. Dr. Ladd thought she was fantastic, but Ralph didn't think so. So Ralph starts insulting the doctor's fiance back home in Rhode Island.
I just thought, oh no.
It gets really ugly. So I told you Ralph has friends in Charleston. He goes to his friends at the newspaper and puts an ad in the paper telling the whole city of Charleston what he thinks of the doctor. Fun facts. But the ads were basically a "you're a disgrace to society" kind of mentality. And we're talking about the late 1780s, so that's kind of what they did back then.
It's a major mistake.
Dr. Ladd actually sees these newspaper ads because it's a small town at this point, and he rebuttals with, "Let's go to Dueler's Alley. We're gonna settle this once and for all." So they came down, they took their 10 paces, they turned, the doctor pointed his gun in the air, and he shot. What'd you hear?
Why can't we be friends?
That is funny. But he shot his one bullet in the air. But Ralph, he had his one bullet left. Where do you guys think he put it?
In the doctor.
Where in the doctor?
His mouth?
His kneecap.
He's whistling.
Yeah, the doctor didn't die either, but he drops to the ground. His friends picked him up, carried him home to 59 Church Street, where he dies 10 days later after refusing medical treatment. Yes, he was a doctor. He probably tried to bleed out the lead poisoning himself. Again, you have to remember the types of bullets that they were using back then. It wasn't necessarily a gun wound that needed, just pull it out and suture. It was lead poisoning. I'm sure it was. So, the other ghost tours will tell you as you walk through here that you can hear the whistles from the doctor. What I'm going to tell you right now is we're already using my voice recorder. But if you're going to come down here on your own, use your voice recorders on your phone and listen to it later. I am going to warn you that every local knows this story. Anybody walking up and down Cumberland or Queen Street throws a whistle down the alley. I do it every single night. You guys know where my garage is at, which means I have to pass the alley in order to get to it. I always throw a whistle down here ever since I got kicked out of here. Here's how that happened. This is the fun part. This alley didn't go all the way through. It actually stopped about halfway between us and Cumberland Street this way. It's because this is where they kept the livestock for the city. So that means those bricks on that side are older, and they are sun-dried bricks from slave children. There's a full handprint and fingerprint swipes in those bricks from the slave kids that had to turn them. My groups always want to stop and try to get a reading out of that brick with the handprint in it. November 26th of 2020, my entire group of 10 people is huddled around that brick, trying to get a reading. I'm trying to shoo them along because two reasons. A kid's not staring at that brick in the afterlife. I treat it the same way I do a grave. That kid's not there. Second reason is, it's outside the dining room window of the beautiful mansion at the end of the alley. And we're not allowed in residential areas, and I didn't know all my boundaries yet, being new at this. So I scurried them along, but the new owner of the mansion came out screaming, tired of me hanging out outside of his window, and my daughter thought it was great because she was on the tour that night because Dad's getting yelled at. We moved on. The next day was Thanksgiving. I worked in retail management for over 20 years, mainly for Walmart. I am never working another Thanksgiving in my life. So the next day was November 28th. I got a phone call. It says, "Nick, you need to go down halfway or reroute your group." Obviously there was a complaint of some sort. I was in the wrong. So I decided it wasn't fair for my groups of 10 to be working around 20 to 60 others. Our tours are actually allowed to go to 20 people. I just won't do it. So I told my team, we're going to tell the story out there, over there by that white building, and then I don't believe in the next story we're going to, but we're going to see what happens. I'm a vampire guy, not a pirate person. Somebody heard the name Anne on a spirit box before we left. I did not tell them we are going to be investigating the female pirate Anne Bonny. So I went, damn it. We get down there, I told them what little bit I did know about piracy at the time. Somebody else heard the number 300, and I don't know what that means in real time. I researched it the next day. We were there November 28th of 2020. Anne Bonny's trial for piracy, November 28th of 1720. We were there on the exact 300th anniversary of her pirate trial. So I went, damn it. I've read more books on piracy ever since, trying to piece together a factual investigation on pirate lore. Be thankful I have a master's degree in creative writing, because this is very difficult to do. Everything we're going to be discussing at the next location is a minimum of 2 resources. Minimum. Because again, that's just how I work. I literally have a stack of books, pirates, nothing, like original works here. So again, very interesting topic. Worst case scenario, like, have you heard anything else, by the way, besides why can't we be friends? I still have to write that one down, that's too funny. But this is an odd location. We don't spend a ton of time in here because obviously it's not like a full investigation. I like to see what's going to go on while we're here. We have gotten our eye here a few times. Keep in mind that the next space is literally across that courtyard, so we're going to be relatively close to this place. We could get clues over there from here. It's called Bleed Over. Same thing with Pinckney Mansion and Big John's. We could have been getting flip-flops either way. I haven't checked my word list in a minute, so let's kind of see what we got going on here. Oh, we have the doctor's name, Dr. Joseph Brown Ladd. We have the name Brown right there. Right? So, and that looks like I can't read the timestamp upside down, but it is, what time is it now? 9:49. How long have we been here? About 10 minutes. And that was at 9:40. So that was about the time we were walking in here.
Wow.
So I'm excited about that. This is me excited, everybody. Like you were asking me about, like, what's the craziest thing you've ever seen? Like, this is the stuff I see nightly. So I do get like conditioned to it. So
Yeah.
his name is probably showing up somewhere else that you guys are just missing in real time, and that could be just in Joseph. It could be Dr. Brown. Like any of those kind of things will pop up. Is this definitely like a great first clue? Yeah. Am I like, oh my God, we have his full name? No, I'm not. So, and you had a small spike too, is that right? Can you
A
see it?
little bit.
How much did it go up to?
I don't remember.
I should have wrote it down then, huh?
Yeah. Oh, way earlier it was 3.5, but you said to go higher than that.
Higher than that one.
Yeah, I haven't had anything higher
Okay.
than that.
And have you guys heard anything? Have you guys been focused on me? Yeah, that's usually what happens in this location. But again, we're going to get clues
I'm
from
trying
here.
hard to ignore you.
Well, some of this stuff can be really intriguing. This was one of the spaces where we caught one of those giant orbs the other night. And it was actually with a digital camera, but it was using the light from your camera. That's the only way we caught it. So it was kind of like, all right.
Yeah.
So I actually attached an infrared light to that camera so I can start using it that way now. It's like, if that's the
I
only
just
way,
heard word, and then that keeps going on.
what's the word you got on there?
Anything?
I got nothing. Now it's overlapping. So
Yes, that does kind of make me a little bit of a liar. I did an investigation in the Stanley Hotel in Estes Park, and we were in a completely, pitch black room, like pitch black. Like we saw, because it was dark.
yeah, did you guys get it on
It
film?
was light, kind of, but everybody's kind of like, everybody was really split on, did we see it? Are we thinking we see it? Stuff like
Fair
that.
enough.
So, and it was on one camera, but not the other camera.
Which is usually a good sign.
Yeah.
The gate behind me, before we leave the space, remember that the alley didn't go all the way through this way. This was blocked off even when they were doing those duels. So in the event there was a loser, they went through this gate because it was a shortcut to get to that cemetery. So again, the gate itself wasn't there, but the archway was. So the gate was probably put there based on the ironwork, probably early 1900s. But this would have been the shortcut, so that way, otherwise they would have had to go all the way down the Queen Street and come back down and around in order to go drop the dead body. So before they can go celebrate with a pint, and we're talking 1780s, they're drinking ale, they're not drinking beers. So, but yeah, we're going to be going up and discussing pirates. Ignore your numbers while we're on the sidewalks, because we're going to be near parking meters again. For those of you filming, if you want to continue, by all means do so. Again, we might run into some other tours up in that location, but we'll see what we can get out of Ann Bonnie tonight. Hopefully she's going to be active. I'm excited about Brown down
I
here.
heard 401.
Yeah. That's a great first clue. Yeah. That's what I was worried about with that picture we got down here the other night. Too foggy, and off the it was John. I did it today. Yeah, he doesn't have a warrant for that. Well, the other piece of it was we had 11 photographs, the exact same thing. 11. Oh, yeah. I went through it to verify, right? And I didn't even have to lighten it up. It was pointed dead. Normally I have to lighten things up, kind of see where things are at.
John.
John. Got John.
That's relevant here. Let's see if anything else pops up about John. Interesting. Alright, let me check my word list real quick, and then we'll kind of get into the history of this space. We will spread out over here, luckily again, with only 2 cars. Oh, that makes complete sense now. It's not the John I was thinking of. There's 2 different Johns relative to this space. I'll just point it out now. John Calhoun is buried on the other side of this. and every once in a while we'll get something relevant to. They took down his monument back in 2020 with the Black Lives Matter, movement that was going through, and we just had John, and I have the word sculpture. Again, it was 50 feet up in the air, and the piece that was holding it up was made out of marble and granite. So if we get any of those terms like that'll pop up, could definitely be relative to him. I normally don't hear from him until March because he was born in March and died in March, and that's usually the only time I ever talk about Calhoun. But you guys are giving me things that might be relevant. Technological. That's a long term to be showing up on there, isn't it? I don't think I've ever seen that there. Rusts. Interesting. All right. So first off, we're going to be discussing that little tiny building over there with the crosses on it. Those are not crosses. If you're not familiar with earthquake bolts, here's the gist of them. In the event we have another earthquake, like what we did in 1886, which we haven't, you can turn those, they're turnbuckles. So it'll tighten the building up to stop it from getting any further damage from the earthquake. So it's a great idea, it just doesn't work, just so you guys know. The only reason I bring these ones up specifically is because that is the first set of earthquake bolts that Charleston put in. Even the apartment building behind it has those like peach squares. Those are also earthquake bolts. But you guys have seen them all over town as lion heads and pineapples and crazy Charleston charm bullshit stuff, right? So, but that's the oldest government building in South Carolina, finished in 1713. So that's the reason why they put in those earthquake bolts. We're here because this is what I call a familiar. This would be the same thing as using a toy to attract a child ghost. We don't have many buildings this old, so this would be something that would be familiar to Anne Bonny at the time that she was here. So this story actually begins right in the middle of this building's construction because it took 10 years to build. Does that sound like our government? Small building, 10 years? No, not at all. 1708 is where we start. Now, you guys got to follow me on this one because there's a lot of twists. I will slow down on the twists because it can get a little funky. A young lady named Anne Cormack moves here from Ireland. She's with her father and his mistress. The mistress is Anne's mother. You guys with me so far? Slow down on this part, it gets really twisted. The three of them are running away from her father's angry wife. They're leaving Ireland by boat to come here. How pissed off was she? I'm just pointing that out. So they land in Georgetown. That's between us and Myrtle Beach. Dad bought a plantation, and Mom died pretty quickly. So he's sending young Anne down here to sell anything from the plantation to help keep things afloat. Now, Anne back home in Ireland is said to be a badass. They say she killed one of her servants when she was 7, 8, 9 years old. Remember, we're dealing with pirate lore. Not an exact number, with a knife to the belly. We've had the term servant or slave, knife, belly, all in the same evening. So these things have actually shown up here. Now, fast forward. Building's done in 1713. By 1715, pirates are coming through town. Anne is stoked. She's about 16, 17 years old at this time. She's going to fall in love. Why? So she can earn her freedom, just like a man. It's a man's world. So, at least that's the time. It's not anymore. First guy she falls in love with. I said first because there's a handful. We're going to go through them because it's hysterical. Now, James Bonny. You kind of already got the gist. Did you guys get a name or something? You guys
Legend.
You guys both looked at each other at the same time.
Did you get Legend?
I heard legend.
Legend.
Okay, I'll get that one written down.
SCK. Does it mean?
What's the matter? You heard
It's
SCK?
I don't think any of what I'm getting.
It's okay. It will. But Dad didn't approve of James Bonny because he's a filthy pirate. They ran away to Jamaica. They got married. Anne Cormack became Anne Bonny, the famous female pirate. However, James Bonny is not Captain Jack Sparrow like she was hoping for. This guy is a privateer. That makes him a spy for the British. He's a coward in her eyes. So a few years later, she falls in love again. This is John Rackham, which is the original John that I thought you guys were listening for. But he went by Calico Jack. This is the guy that they based Captain Jack Sparrow's character off of, just so you guys know. So this is Johnny Depp. This is the guy she's looking for. He has his own ship, and Anne wants to be part of the crew. You can't put a girl on a pirate crew. Does anybody know why?
Bad luck.
Yep, they're bad luck.
Like bananas on a boat.
So they're bad luck. So, thank you for keeping it family friendly. I get a lot of different answers to that question, by the way. So anyway, he makes a deal with her. If you dress like a guy and hide your gender, you can be part of the crew, as long as you look like the crew. But you're going to be a female in my quarters. She's okay with this because Dad used to cross-dress her as a boy apprentice back home in Ireland to hide her away from his wife. So she gets it. But let's put two and two together. She's a female in his quarters. She's eventually going to get pregnant. You can't have a pregnant pirate dude on the crew. Somebody's going to figure out that she's a girl, and then they're going to vote Jack off the ship. He drops her off in Cuba before she starts the show and says, have the baby here. These are friends of mine. Come back later and we'll figure it out. She comes back with, no baby.
I
We
just
have
got ice.
as
the
far as
song.
ice baby.
Mm-hmm.
We have no idea what happened to that child. We don't know if the baby lived, if she abandoned them, what happened. But the significant part of this story is that she comes back dressed like a girl, which makes Jack pretty angry. Now everybody's going to know that he let a girl on the crew. He captured another pirate crew and they're down below deck. Anne's going to go flirting, because that's first off who Anne is, and she's trying to make Jack even more mad. We're on guy number 3, in case you lost track. Guy number 3 turns out to be a female, dressed like a guy to be part of the pirate crew that Calico Jack captured. Her name is Mary Reed. She went by Mark Reed to become a pirate. We've gotten both names here in the past.
McCarthy.
What was it?
McCarthy.
Yeah, we're going to hear that all day long because of the damn news today. Yeah, so McCarthy. So, her and Mary become friends, possibly lovers. We don't really know for certain. But the British find out where they are. They send an entire fleet of ships to take down one pirate ship. Anne and Mary, rumor had it, were the only 2 pirates not drunk enough to come up and fight with 1 bullet flintlocks. Obviously, 2 ladies are not going to take on a whole fleet of ships. They get arrested. And as they're getting arrested, she looks at her beau, her captain, Calico Jack, and she says, you should have fought like a man instead of being hanged like a dog. The word dog is very prominent here, just so you guys know. The judge, he wants to see the 2 quote-unquote men that fought back so valiantly on their own after he's already tried and hung Calico Jack 2 days prior, and the crew that wouldn't come up and fight. The 2 ladies go in front and reveal their gender, hoping to save themselves. He doesn't give a shit that they're female. They're still pirates. So, he's still going to hang them. We plead our bellies was the last thing they shouted out, because you can't hang a pregnant woman in 1720. It's illegal. So he sends them both back to jail. Dad is still up here in South Carolina with all of his Irish money. He bails out Anne, brings her back home. She remarries. That's husband number 2, but guy number 4, we're going to count Mary. We don't really know. She has 4 kids. That is at the age of 84. That's all we know about her life after her pirate career. Mary Reed died a year later in that Jamaican jail from whatever pirates die from in a Jamaican jail. Yes, use your imagination. Most books will tell you that it was fever. I'm going to call bullshit on that and say it was scurvous and nasty and gross. Make it romantic. That kind of thing. We are going to spread out. Don't expect a whole lot of numbers out of here. If you get numbers out of the back half, I'll be excited. The closer you get to the bushes, we have 2 electrical poles in the corners, not to mention the parking meters on the other side of the bushes. So it's definitely a listening piece for you. Questions that I left out on purpose. I'm not going to give you a slur of them like what we did at the Pinckney Mansion site. You guys are getting the gist of how to listen to this. I left out the name of Anne Bonny's parents on purpose. That's the father and his mistress. I also left out the name of Calico Jack's ship. We do get other things, but that's just to get you started. This is not like we're prancing around a prominent English woman. You can be bold and do what you need to do to get some answers out of Anne in this location. Again, this is a hit or miss spot, but again, when it's a hit, it's a big hit. So you heard something specific earlier. What was it? No, maybe it was you guys. What did you guys say?
Legend.
Legend, that's what it was. So it's weak, but we'll take it at this point. Again, it's been kind of a late night, so if we can get something legend when I first start something, it's like, oh, okay. And then the name John.
Did you hear Rose?
I did hear Rose.
Rose.
So, I told you guys about 59 Church Street, right? That is known as the Thomas Rose House. So, and it is a giant yellow house. So we've gotten the term yellow, we've had Thomas, but Rose shows up all the time.
I heard rose a long time ago, but I didn't think it because you said a different flower, indigo, but I heard rose.
You heard Rose back at the Pinckney Mansion site? Okay. I don't know if it's going to be relative to anything, maybe something she planted. This is relevant to the name of the house.
Right.
And we're still close to Philadelphia Alley. Alright, let's spread out, let's have some fun at this location, and then we'll see what we can gather at it. We'll check my work list.
So we're talking to Anne. Anne with an A. NPR News.
Scott Horse. There's an X in there, but that's almost made.
Here, let me record it.
Is the maid the servant you stabbed?
Don't know what questions to ask.
I don't know.
$6.60. It must have taken a lot of courage to do what she did. What was the name of your dad? What was your dad's name?
What about your mom?
I want to know what happened to her kid.
Is your baby okay?
You want to go tell him that we got made?
It wasn't quite made. There was an X in there. But
I know, but still, X can sometimes be like a placeholder.
Anything else crazy coming up out of your Ouija board?
so we had MAIX and then D. So it was like made, but there was an X in there. So I asked if maid was the servant that she stabbed.
The maid would have been the father's mistress.
Okay.
Because she was a servant in his main home, and his wife was always sick, so he always sent her to the second home so he can have the affair with the servant maid at the main home in Ireland. Don't know that they would have called her a maid. I would think more of a servant. But again, it is very interesting.
Yeah.
Did we hear anything coming out of there?
Mm-mm.
We heard 60.
Sorry.
60?
Yeah.
6 or 60.
It's weird. That's not a number that normally shows up here. She heard the name Gloria, but I don't know who that would be relevant to. And granted, there's like 15 stories on this corner.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So I'm always like, if I'm staring up in the air, I'm like, oh, okay, what is that relative to? Gotta stop and remember.
We'll walk this way towards the magazine.
It's not as foggy over here. Are they getting stuff?
Maybe.
You want to go over there?
I heard Friends. Did you hear Friends a second ago?
We got her using the motion sensor now. So Anne Bonnie has shown us what her hair color is in this location. Like, because the only way to do that is to she has to touch it to make it go to red. So even if you guys hear the color red, obviously let us know, because the answers can go anywhere. But we'll see what she does with that motion sensor. You're getting a lot of letters here. That's surprising.
It's just, most of it's gibberish, but...
You have a prescription on there. It's usually what I joke around with on it. It looks just like a prescription.
Anything?
Now it's starting to go up.
Oh, it's going up.
You got something going up on there?
Not
It's going
strong
up a
enough
little bit.
yet.
It's still a 1.
Like right when you stepped in front of it, it stopped.
It's because I released the button to make it go off.
Probably. Probably.
You know how many times I get blamed for that all the time?
Is it you?
Yeah. Well, when tickets were much lower in price, I would get 2 to 3 skeptics a night. They would constantly like, "Can we see what's in your pockets?" I'm like, "Dude, I got my vape on me and my wallet." Like, seriously.
See what's in your pockets.
Like, they thought I was making stuff go off, making stuff appear on the camera. I'm like, guys, I can't make this stuff up. You know,
Just
and
heard
I'm
walls.
walls.
Ooh.
Weren't we just talking about the original Charleston wall?
Yeah.
We've had that here in the past, so the original Charlestown wall was Cumberland Street, so we're still within the original city. You got-
Industry.
Which industry? I think you're more fascinated with the Ouija board, baby.
Thanks to Ouija board, yeah.
It's back over itself
Is
now.
this the location for that device you were talking about?
No, Philadelphia Alley
Oh, the
for the
Philadelphia Alley,
initials.
okay.
I mean, we've gotten other things out of it. We've had the word coat like spelled out for us several. I think it's been twice now at the Pinckney Mansion site. One of Eliza's son, his name was Charles Coatsworth Pinckney. So again, it's not spelled the same, but it literally spelled out coat twice.
That was him.
That was me. That was
Yeah.
That was nothing.
Yeah, I saw his hand move it.
It was weird. I put my hand up there before, it didn't do anything. Might have been part ghost.
We got rusts again. Why do I keep getting the word rusts?
And what color was your hair? Come and show us what color your hair was. What was the name of Jack's boat?
I would definitely not call it a boat. It was a ship. Yeah, boat was like a dinghy to them.
Yeah. What was the name of Jack's ship? What? No, that wasn't it. Yeah, that sounded. What was the name of the ship? And what color was your hair?
Just tell us everything, Ann. You say don't put a banana on a boat?
Yeah. You ever have bananas on a boat?
Nothing coming out of there at all? Nothing on yours either?
I can make out.
No.
Alright. Yeah, the rust, like normally when something shows up twice, I
You
normally have
got
to pay-
rust twice?
Yeah. The first one was when we were talking about the Calhoun Monument. Reset?
Is that you moving? What do you think? What was that?
I got a plate in my hand. I
No,
don't
no,
know
no.
about.
So I wonder if that was you moving or not. Stop for a second.
So we will go over the very brief answers to this location. And the next location is the one where I don't know everything. That's the wonderful thing for you guys, because I literally can't hide anything in there because you guys are going to be the ones telling me what's going on. And it is. I've been going there for 2 months. I'll tell you what I do know, and it is a great creepy story to end the night. So I was really glad to have found it. And it wasn't that, you know, I was seeking out that story. It actually came to me first time I went there because there's mine find, and all the first clues that we had were relevant to one man. So I was pretty excited about that.
Nice.
Yeah. Anne Bonny, one of the few pictures you can find of this woman with her shirt on. The reason why is because she used to bare her breast to show men that they were just killed by a woman. I told you, she was a badass. Yeah, most women started plotting at this point when I mentioned that. The names of her parents were William Cormac, Mary Brennan. This was not another subliminal trick. It just happened to be another Mary in the story. And that would be the maid that you actually had come through. And I would call that X that you had in the middle of it just interference. Because again, we don't know exactly what the spellings of it are. Calico Jack. I like to show you guys what they based Johnny Depp off of because it's hysterical. And the reason why they named him Calico Jack, even though his real name was John, is because of the jackets that he wore. They came from the British captains that he killed. His father was a tailor, so textiles were something that caught his eye. So Calico Jack, fancy jacket. It's basically where the name came from. The name of his ship was called the Kingston. I don't necessarily always expect the word Kingston to pop through on radio sweep spirit boxes, but again, the word king would suffice in this location. We don't get it often, but I keep throwing it out there in hopes that we're going to get it on a disembodied voice one night. Hopefully it'll come through. But yeah, this is Johnny Depp, in case you guys know. By the way, there was a television series called Black Sails. It's basically pirate porn, but wow, is it amazing. It really tells the story of how all of these pirates came together during the Golden Age. So Blackbeard's in there, Charles Vane, Anne Bonny. Yeah, it's amazing. So my wife, she used to work from home for Best Buy. Like, she was a customer service rep, and I always wore headphones so she can work in her office and not bother her. She comes downstairs one day and there's something very provocative on the screen, and she just taps my shoulder and she says, "What you watching?" And I just turned around and said, "Pirate porn. I'm working." And of course, it's just a running joke at this point. But yeah. Oh, by the way, one of the reasons why I give that heated warning at the top is part of this is this space here too. So a year ago, this past September, I took my group to the back, and the kid next to me literally went white as a ghost. Like, I got to pick this kid up by his armpit to stop him from hitting his head on the ground. His boyfriend picked him up from the other side of him. We brought him over here, sat him down, bottle of water, the whole 9 yards. He's feeling better. I then told him the story that I told you guys about Anne Bonny, and this used to be my finale. So I was like, all right, guys, last stop. Go have fun. They pull me aside. We are 2 transgender males, meaning I had 2 females dressed as males, just like Anne and Mary in the story, on my tour, and didn't realize it. And it made complete sense as to why one of them nearly passed out the minute we entered the space. It was September. It was a cool night like this. He wasn't overdressed, not underdressed. There was no reason for this kid to pass out.
Wow.
So this is the stuff I normally see that I can't explain. I get about 3 to 4 instances per year. Psychics and mediums, a good one, normally doesn't make it past the Pinckney Mansion site. They would have been fine tonight because we had absolutely nothing going on there. But again, with those high spikes that we were getting, they usually don't make it. And they don't tell me that they're a psychic until I have to call the paramedics and they're on a gurney.
Wow.
Yeah, that's usually how that goes.
Yeah.
So we'll just kind of give these folks here a minute because we're going to be going in that same direction. For those of you filming along the way, we're going to be passing the circular church graveyard where there are said to be some Civil War Confederate ghosts that walk through there. I don't have any proof of it, so if you want to get some film as we're walking by it, by all means do so. Completely up to you. Again, it's going to be your footage, not mine. But we're going about 3 blocks from here up to Washington Park. So again, it's beautiful, quiet night. I love when I have the whole city to ourselves. What have we seen? 2 tours tonight? Is that the second one that's come through? It's like I'm the only guy working. I love it. So, but anyway, any other major questions about pirates? I can go on and on and on all night long about pirates alone. Like, I could probably do a whole tour if I really wanted to. There is Blackbeard history here, in case you were wondering about that. And there's a house that we'll pass on our way back where they used to stay. I can't take you there now because it's residential. So when we're not touring anymore, we're going to pass by it and I'll show you where that is. But Blackbeard actually raided Charleston because he was looking for medicine for his syphilis that he got from one of his 14 wives. So there's a whole story wrapped around that. Like, yeah, there's so much pirate lore here, and I'm like, damn it. My ex-wife was all about pirates, so every time I tell a pirate story, it's like, damn it. I'm a vampire guy. Where's the vampires? Right. All right. Turn off your REM pod. So that's the push your antenna in. You made it go off. There's a ghost. If you turn the device around, there's a little flap in the back. You can lift up that flap and hit the white button on the right-hand side. You'll have to click it to where it pops out. Perfect. Look at you. You're a pro. Gotta give her a job. All right.
There you go.
Let's go talk about this crazy writer guy. Pretty nuts. You know what that is? Is that a whisker? No, it's not a whisker. It's not a solar panel. I'm not sure what that is. That's right. It's a what? It's a nice ride. Yeah, it's very nice. A picture of a solid. But they're probably painting the church. It's better to let them in. I'm not going to shop it. You know what I mean? Again, I get minimal activity. Is it a cool key factor? Yeah, it is.
It makes sense what you say about them not being here.
What's interesting is there is a Pinckney buried in here. That would be Eliza's great nephew, and I get some evidence from him at the Powder magazine, because he was a newspaper editor for the Mercury, and he was a statesman and all kinds of other things. But we get a lot of things about him about his writing that he did for the newspaper. Yeah. But there are said to be Confederate soldiers that walk through here. I haven't caught anything. Every time you guys record footage here, I always make sure I take a look at it. Because if I get legit footage here, then I'm going to be knocking on the church's door.
I just heard law.
Oh, you want to know why you heard law? The judge that sentenced Anne Bonny and Mary Read, his name was Nicholas Laws. So my name is probably in there somewhere. You just missed it. Or somebody missed it. It actually wraps all the way around, so if you guys want to continue taking footage as we continue on. So May, is this what you guys thought you signed up for?
Yeah, it's awesome.
Believe it or not, a lot of people show up and have no idea.
Well,
I wasn't fishing for compliments.
Well, we were, I guess, at a bar Sunday night and joking about doing a ghost tour, because we've done them before. And David said, I want to do one, but I want to, actually look for ghosts. And I want to use all the stuff. And so I was scrolling through TripAdvisor, and it's like, oh, well, look, here we go. And so we booked it.
I'm the only one in the country that has this caliber of
I think
equipment
it's awesome.
for you guys. Like, there's other tours, and, in Savannah has one, but they're pretty hokey from what I understand. Not to mention they're trying to rip off my website. Oh, no, it's going to be tour up there. So I'm just going to filming.
I think everything in Savannah is hokey.
I like Savannah.
It's good, but I think Charleston definitely has better historical
Got a little bit better
stuff.
edge on them.
On the walk, I heard 4 children.
It's creepy as fuck.
My legs are so sore.
Huh?
My legs hurt so bad.
Unholy. It's funny, that actually showed up here the other night, too. Unholy.
And I heard Joy earlier.
Joy?
Unholy. Remind me
Joy
of that
was
one.
by the church, right?
Yeah,
By the
like,
grave.
we're right next to St.
We were
Michael's.
Yeah.
just past the last grave.
I heard 4 children on the walk.
4 children
How
on
would
the
that
wall.
On the walk.
While we were
While we
walking,
were walking.
it just came through 4 children.
Well, this guy we're about to talk about only had 1 kid. So I don't know who the hell that 4 children would be relative to. Because we're already past the pink names.
Yeah.
Alright, so, like I said, first time I came here, no idea what the hell we were going to find. Everything pointed to this guy. So this is Henry Timrod. We had his first name and then part of his last name. So we had Henry and Tim show up in the same evening along with the year of his birth. The exact year of his birth. So it wasn't just like the last 2 digits. 1828, I believe it was. But this guy was a writer and a poet. He was alive, obviously, during the Civil War times, and he wanted to fight for the Confederacy. So he did. He went out to the battlefield, and his comrades realized he was too sick to fight. So they sent him home. They said, go be the voice of the war. So he came home, and he started writing about what was going on the battlefield. He became known as the laureate of the Confederacy. This guy's a big deal. Like, the college kids now, when they're studying Poe and Dickinson, like, they're throwing Timrod in there, too, because of what he was writing about. However, as he was writing, his wife gave birth to a son. The son died at a very young age. I'm not going to tell you how old he was, or his birthday, death date, any of those things, or even his name. You're going to find that out on your spirit boxes. You're also going to find out what his wife's name was. I'm not going to give you that either. But after his son passes away at a very young age, he is still sick, and one of his college buddies called him up and said, hey, I actually have a cottage out here in Columbia. You can come out here and you can start writing out here and continue working for the newspaper and kind of get over some of the grief you're going through about your son. So it's 1867, and he goes out to this cottage, and he's writing, and he coughs, and it lands on the page in a form of a blood stain. He had tuberculosis. So his last words, by the way, were beholder of brief mortality, person with short life. And then he coughed and died while writing that last line. So they show this book one day a year at the Charleston Library Society. It's on Halloween. They call it the Blood Book. I am going to show you the page just so you kind of have a gist of like why they actually call it the Blood Book. But the interesting thing about the blood stain is it looks like a man writing over his desk. So it is kind of a creepy little factor. A couple of quick traits about Henry. It does take a few minutes to get some activity out of him. He was a very short and shy man. So I've been reading about his biographies and his actual work. Very, very timid man. So you can see where the blood stain looks like a man writing.
Wow.
And his last lines of beholder of brief mortality. So
That was it.
that was him. So all of his works are at the Charleston Library Society. The interesting thing is I wasn't expecting him here. I've heard this story before when I was taking a buddy's tour, and we heard it at the Charleston Library Society. So I just kept digging. I bought, obviously all of his work so I can start reading it. And I found a very interesting last stanza of his poem called Charleston. And it's going to make a whole lot of sense of why I read it out loud. It's kind of to like stir things up. I know reading poetry can be boring, but this will make sense here in a moment. We know not in the temple of the fates, God has inscribed her doom. He refers to God as a female. And all untroubled in her faith, she waits, the triumph or the tomb. This was written in 1862. It's basically stating that Charleston has to wait for the outcome of the war for either triumph or the tomb. So, very interesting last stanza to be writing about Charleston when we didn't know the outcome of the war just yet. I have found that if I don't read that paragraph, it is very light here. When I do, we get readings of well over 100, and they are normally found in the grassy knoll areas. So most of the time they're over on the exact opposite side of the obelisk, but sometimes we find them over there. So again, you're going to have to explore and see where you're getting the spikes from. We've had other nights where there's been nothing. So again, it's not coming from a building or anything else that's nearby. We do get other clues relative to some of the other monuments. So particularly there's a little monument over there, like off to the left. We get that woman's full name, or like her name is Marguerite Volk. We've had her initials show up on the Ouija board before. We've also had a very odd spelling of Marguerite. I think it only had 2 extra letters. That's a lot of letters for Marguerite. So we are pretty excited about that. But, oh, by the way, for those of you that know that I don't think I told anybody on this tour yet, somebody brought an SLS camera on my tour a few weeks ago. Yeah, so the SLS camera, if you're not familiar with it, it's the stick figures. So they brought it. I don't have one because they're giant. We've actually found a new technology, so we're waiting to see how that's going to work out. But anyway, while we were here, a full 8-minute interaction with a stick figure standing next to this monument, and we tested it. And it was a matter of like, hey Henry, is it okay for me to read a stanza of your poem? Raise your right hand. It'd go up and back down again. Now, the cool thing for you guys is I leave all of your data up on my website for an entire year. So you can go back to December, look at the date at the top, because obviously I noted it, and you can go straight to that date and watch the video. Again, I don't hide anything. It is all up there for speculation. But yeah, spread out. This is our last stop, just so you guys know. I'm going to check my word list to kind of see where we're at with things. Keep in mind, other tours do come here, and we do have a homeless gentleman that will come in and kind of just try to start conversations. So stick together if you can.
Okay.
I don't know this gentleman, but we've seen him 3 or 4 times now. So, all right, have some fun. Let's do this. Definitely find me some.
Matthew 19 and
Timothy. Henry Timrod. Timothy. Matthew 19.
And then Matthew 19.
Well, that's not the son's name, so I'll tell you that.
And we're asking the son's name.
Son's name, anything you want to in here. You can. The weird thing about the son is his birthday. So
Okay.
see if you can figure out when his birthday was.
So your brother was Timothy. Can you tell us when his birthday is?
His son. What?
Son, not brother.
His last name was Timrod.
No.
Were you listening at all?
No, it's hard for me to listen and listen to this at the same time. Okay,
Don't-
you ask the question.
Don't pay attention to her.
Obviously.
When was your son's birthday?
We need to go in the grassy areas.
Let's just walk there.
Huh?
Let's just walk to the end. When's your son's birthday?
Still waiting for you to tell us about the birthday. Just a question.
Who's here with us?
D.E. who? We just want to know the answers.
You tell us your son's birthday? That U keeps coming up a lot.
Mm-hmm.
What's with the U?
Well, you would think if he liked to write so much that he would want to use letters and words to...
What's going on with the U? Why U?
Is it June or July? Do we know his son's name?
If he told me, I can't remember. It's hard to listen with one ear.
Mm-hmm.
Is it July? I'm getting a feeling, but
A feeling?
yeah.
What does that mean?
I don't know. Like, I feel like I know what his birthday is.
It's probably July 4th. Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah, were you getting that too?
The letter U keeps coming up a lot.
You.
Mm-hmm.
It came up like, I don't know, probably over half the time before I reset it.
Wow. It's weird for it to just keep coming back to the same letter.
Yeah.
It's funny, she just heard the song lyric, "Get Up Next to You." But she's got small EMF readings going on over there. I was using, there's an EMF detector for your phone you can use. I was testing it, like I didn't really see anything out of the norm. Got chips. It's an anagram.
Okay, so when was the birthday?
Christmas Eve. So even if you had like a 12 and a 24, I would take it. Obviously, in the month of December, that's an easy grab.
Mm-hmm.
It's a hell of a prescription. But no other phrases stood out. Come on, Henry.
tell us about yourself?
You hear that serial numbers, so the government. Did you hear that?
I heard cereal. Tell us about yourself.
We know you were a writer. We know you were short. What else do we know about you?
He wasn't very outgoing. I'm short, not outgoing. We should hang out. We should hang out quietly. Quietly with one another. You don't want to hang out with another short, shy guy? Or is it the really loud lady that pissing you off? Just me? Good grief. Kind of loud.
Samantha, you got anything?
I just got 3.5.
3.5. Alright, looks like they're coming this way, so we're gonna go up back. Sounds good.
Move along.
Notice all the other people stare at you when you're walking around with all the cool shit.
You're just jealous.
They are. That's why I just stay out of their way. I don't have a whole lot of friends in this industry.
Where'd David go? What is he?
He's off in the corner.
It's a plaque for Andrew Jackson's mother, the president.
It's really loud. We're gonna go even further. That run while David makes his way over here. Funny is the word clutter showed up as they were starting to move that way.
Well, if he really was introverted, then I'm sure having a big group of people.
I've noticed when
Loud.
it's just my group in here is when we've had more activity.
Mm-hmm.
So he's a pretty shy little guy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-mm.
You know what I asked?
Mm-mm. What did you ask?
I got home and smoky.
What'd you get?
I got home, and then later on I got smoky. There's some space in it.
Yeah. Okay. So, two different terms. Anything else come out of there, Sam? Dog. Smokey. Maybe he had a dog named Smokey. That'd be very interesting if he did. Probably the most interesting thing, I mean, we got it up to a 12. We didn't get anything above that 12, but it's definitely, something she heard the name Michael. Can't read my writing. Oh, it's Angel. But you also had the name Billy show up, which is very close to the son's name, who is Willie. So, and he only went by Willie, even though he was named after Henry's father, William. So, again, his tombstone even says Willie Timrod on it. So I'm excited about the close phonetic sound of it, but not like, oh my god, best evidence ever. The name Timothy showing up, it's the same thing. We kind of have that stretch of, we have the name Timothy and Timrod. It's very similar, but again, not a pinpointed, close but no cigar kind of mentality. The name Michael showed up just because it shows up pretty much on a nightly basis. We're next to St. Michael's Church. I almost expect it now. But again, the dog and Smokey, like that just sounds like a dog's name, doesn't it? So, again, this is lighter than what I normally see as far as